A very good evening once again. You're watching News 9 Facebook Live with me, Adarsh Vepachedu. Did you know the coronavirus pandemic may be affecting your financial decision making? Well, it sure is, and we aren't even aware of it. As the pandemic may be affecting our decision making ability in ways that we are not even aware of. So, why does this really happen to us? Well, scientists are attributing it to something called ambient emotions or background feelings. Just like there is background noise that we don't seem to notice much. Now, the effect of ambient emotions has been amplified in the current juncture with the coronavirus pandemic and how it may have led to a dramatic shift in the underlying moods of millions of people across the world. While for some, it's predominantly a background feeling of fear. For others, it's extended bouts of anger or even sadness. Now, to tell us more about what ambient emotions are, how to identify and deal with them, we have with us Dr. Mohan Sunil Kumar, who is a psychiatrist and director at Augmenta Health Private Limited, based out of Bengaluru, joining us live on the program. Many thanks, sir, for speaking to us. Aren't ambient emotions easy to ignore, just like background noise? But unlike background noise, how important is it to identify and address ambient emotions?
Ambient emotions are background emotions which persist over a period of time.
Okay.
Because it persists over a period of time, it can influence our decision making, that too without our knowledge. So the problem with ambient emotions is its persistence beyond a time, and second is its ability to influence our decision making without our knowledge. So that's the reason, Adarsh, I think it is important for us to know about our ambient emotions.
Okay, but how do we really identify them, doctor, if you were to elaborate on that?
It definitely is not easy to identify, even though it is going to be persistent with us all the time. The reason is because if you walk into a restaurant and start eating, right, most of the times you don't know what song is going on until unless you have a pause or some friend of yours notices and says, can you listen to this song and those. So the same way, your emotions, if you want to identify, especially which are ambient and silent in the background, you need to really sit down, introspect and ask yourself what made you take some decisions, what you took, and what could be the potential influences and those. So if you sit down, pause for a moment and introspect and ask yourself potential emotions which could have influenced, maybe that is when you would be able to identify this background ambient emotions.
Okay. So, doctor, are these ambient emotions more prevalent among the elderly? And if so, why is it really the case?
Not necessarily. It is prevalent in all the population. But of course, the elderly people might be more tuned to pick it up. For a simple reason is they introspect and try to ask themselves, why did I take this decision and those. So we all know in youth we are believing that we are in very much control of things, right? So maybe as you grow older, you kind of ask yourself some questions, why did I take this decision and those, so which makes them pick up ambient emotions a little better way. But of course, anybody can tune themselves to pick up ambient emotions irrespective of their age if they develop the skill to introspect and ask critical questions to themselves.
Right. Dr. Mohan, if we were to delve a little deeper, could these ambient emotions lead to financial mistakes as well? For example, I remember as to how a lot of people indulged in hoarding large amount of supplies, almost panic buying during the lockdown, despite the fact that the government was saying that ration will be available. Can we attribute this behavior to ambient emotions?
That particular example which you're talking about is not just ambient emotion. There was overt emotions of fear and uncertainty of how much time the lockdown would persist or anything like that. And this was a behavior not just in India or something, it was world over seen. So basically, I think the fear, it was very prominent at that time, so we might not be able to call it as ambient in that kind of scenario. But definitely, if you see post that, a lot of us have changed in the way we see things, the way we work, the way we function and those. So unknowingly, yes, ambient emotions is seemingly kind of definitely playing a role in day-to-day functioning. A lot of organizations are kind of looking at how to have online presence, how to kind of build bootstrap teams, because this COVID scenario has brought up a lot of ambient emotions at organization levels and making them kind of fine-tune for the next big crisis or a challenge. So ambient emotions definitely has played a role in the way we have changed post-COVID-19.
Okay. Doctor, lastly, how do we deal with and how do we avoid ambient emotions? What is your final word of advice for the viewers
I
watching you?
I guess we cannot avoid it because
Okay.
it is something which happens by itself.
Naturally.
What we can definitely do is to become more aware of it. So as I already mentioned, I think it's a good idea for us to do a pre-mortem rather than a post-mortem. Like for example, ask ourselves, okay, I'm planning to do this. So what do I do? Why do I want to buy this, or why do I want to take this decision? What could
So
be the pros and
self-introspection
cons?
seems to be a key.
Exactly. So pausing and taking a step back and asking ourselves some tough questions will help you to identify ambient emotions and also tackle with it in a better way.
All right. Many thanks, Dr. Mohan, for joining us and for sharing with us your insights on what ambient emotions are all about, how it's really heightened, especially amid the pandemic, and how do we really go ahead and combat these ambient emotions. As the doctor rightly pointed out, the need of the hour is for us to sit down and essentially introspect as to what kind of decisions are we taking, how would they be effective for us in the long run. And when you're going through that self-introspection phase, that is when you're bound to realize that, all right, some decisions that you may have taken may be for the worse. And that's when you know that it could be a result of ambient emotions. That's the only way that we can really deal with it. Self-introspection really is the key. If you've liked the information that we've shared with you this evening, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News 9 on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Many thanks for joining us.